Hey guys, tonight we're going to travel far back in time to a world long before cities, castles, or even farms existed. In today's video, we're exploring a day in the life of a caveman, boring history for sleep. We will slowly step into the quiet prehistoric world, where early humans lived inside caves, gathered food from the wild, and survived each day using only simple tools and their instincts. But before we begin, I have a small request. Many of you listen to these relaxing history stories to fall asleep, but most of you are not actually subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy calm history videos like this, please consider subscribing. Your subscription really helps this small channel grow and continue making long, relaxing stories like this. And before you get comfortable, I'm curious about something. Let me know in the comments, which city are you watching this video from right now? Now dim the lights, relax, and let your mind slowly drift back thousands of years into the ancient world of the first humans. The first light of morning slowly begins to appear over a vast prehistoric landscape. The sun has not yet risen, but the sky is beginning to glow with a pale grey colour far beyond the distant hills. The world is quiet. No roads exist here. No towns or houses can be seen across the land. Instead, forests stretch across the valleys, rivers cut slowly through the earth, and massive rocky cliffs rise from the ground like silent guardians of the ancient world. Inside one of those rocky cliffs is a dark cave. This cave is not empty. It is home. Deep inside the cave, several people are sleeping close together on the ground. Their beds are simple layers of animal skins and dry grass placed carefully over the cold stone floor. During the night, a small fire burned near the entrance of the cave. Now that fire has almost died out, only a few glowing embers remain, faintly lighting the dark interior of the cave. One of the people sleeping near the fire slowly begins to move. He opens his eyes slowly, adjusting to the dim light around him. This man is what we would call a caveman, but to him, he is simply a human being trying to survive another day in a world filled with challenges. His life is very different from ours. He does not wake up to an alarm clock. There are no phones, no lights, and no warm houses waiting for him. Instead, the rising sun is his signal that another day has begun. The man slowly sits up from his bed of animal skins. The air inside the cave is cool and slightly damp. Outside, the world is still quiet. Birds have not yet begun their morning songs, and the forest remains calm before the activity of the day begins. The caveman stretches his arms and looks around the cave. Near him, other members of his small group are still sleeping. There are perhaps 10 people living together in this cave, a few adults, some children, and an older member of the group who moves more slowly than the others. This small group depends on each other for survival. No single person could survive alone in this world for very long. Food must be found, danger must be watched for, and warmth must be maintained during cold nights. Living together makes survival possible. The caveman reaches toward the small fire and gently moves a stick through the ashes. Tiny sparks glow faintly as the stick touches the embers. The fire must be brought back to life. Without fire, the cave becomes cold and dangerous once the sun sets again. Carefully, he adds a few small dry sticks onto the embers. Then he leans forward and gently blows air across the glowing coals. Slowly, a small flame appears. The fire begins to grow again. Soon a soft orange light spreads across the cave walls. The dancing firelight reveals something interesting around the cave. Along the stone walls are faint drawings, animals with long horns, large deer, wild horses running across open plains. These drawings were made long ago by people who lived here before this group arrived, perhaps hundreds of years ago, or maybe even longer. No one in the cave knows exactly who created them, but they remain on the walls like silent stories from the past. As the fire grows stronger, one of the children slowly wakes up and sits near the warmth. The child watches the man carefully feed the fire. Fire is one of the most important discoveries humans have ever made. It provides warmth. It keeps dangerous animals away from the cave at night, and it allows food to be cooked, making it easier and safer to eat. Without fire, life would be far more difficult. Soon the rest of the group begins to wake up as well. The quiet cave slowly fills with movement and soft voices. Outside, the sky grows brighter. The first birds begin to sing somewhere deep within the forest. A new prehistoric day is beginning, and for this small group of early humans, the search for food will soon begin again. Because in the ancient world, every single day is the same simple challenge. Find food, stay safe, and survive until tomorrow. The morning light now slowly reaches the entrance of the cave. Soft sunlight begins to touch the stone floor near the opening, creating a warm golden glow against the cold grey rock. Outside, the forest is waking up. Birds are now calling from the branches of tall ancient trees. Somewhere in the distance, the sound of running water can be heard as a river slowly moves through the valley. Inside the cave, the small group of early humans is now fully awake. The fire that was carefully brought back to life now burns gently near the cave entrance. Its warmth fills the space, and the soft crackling sound mixes with the quiet voices of the group. For them, every day begins with the same important question: where will food come from today? Unlike the modern world, food cannot be stored for long periods of time. There are no farms, no markets, and no refrigerators. Every day the group must search the land for something to eat. Sometimes they will find berries or nuts. Sometimes they may find roots hidden under the soil. And on rare lucky days they may even hunt a large animal. But hunting is dangerous and unpredictable. Many hunts fail, and sometimes the hunters themselves become the hunted. The man who woke up first earlier in the morning now stands near the cave entrance, looking out across the land. He's studying the environment carefully. Over many years he has learned to read the signs of nature, the movement of animals, the direction of the wind, the sounds of birds. All of these small details help him understand what might be happening beyond the trees. Behind him, another member of the group is preparing simple tools. These tools are not made from metal like modern tools. Instead, they are made from stone, bone, and wood. One of the most important tools is a sharp stone hand axe. It has been carefully shaped by striking one stone against another. The edges are sharp enough to cut meat, skin animals, and chop small branches. Making these tools requires patience and skill. The toolmaker sits on the ground holding a smooth round stone in one hand. In the other hand, he holds a larger hammerstone. Slowly and carefully he strikes the edge of another stone. Each strike removes a small thin piece, slowly shaping the stone into a sharp blade. Tiny stone fragments scatter across the cave floor. This process is called flint knapping. Although the people living here do not have a name for it, they understand the technique very well. It has been passed down through generations. The children of the group watch closely. One day they will need to learn these same skills to survive. Outside the cave, the forest is now alive with movement. Small animals move through the underbrush searching for food. A group of deer quietly walks through a distant clearing. But the forest is not safe. Large predators also live here. Massive cave lions roam the land. Wolves travel in packs, and sometimes enormous bears wander through the forest searching for food. For early humans, every step outside the cave carries risk. But staying inside the cave forever is not an option. Food must be found. Soon the group begins preparing to leave the cave. Some members will gather plants and berries. Others will search for small animals to hunt. The group rarely travels all together. Instead, they split into smaller groups to cover more ground. Before leaving, they add more wood to the fire. Keeping the fire alive inside the cave is important. If the fire goes out, starting a new one can be extremely difficult. Fire is usually created by striking special stones together to create sparks. Those sparks must land on dry plant fibers to start a flame. But if the weather is wet or the materials are damp, it may take hours to succeed. So the group protects their fire carefully. One older member of the group will stay behind in the cave today. He will watch the fire and protect the shelter while the others search for food. The rest of the group begins to move toward the cave entrance. The sunlight now fills the valley outside. Tall grasses sway gently in the morning wind. Mist still hangs lightly above the ground near the river. The world looks peaceful. But the people leaving the cave know that danger can appear at any moment. Each person carries a simple tool. Some carry sharp stone knives. Others carry long wooden spears. These spears are one of the most important hunting tools. The tip of the spear is sharpened and sometimes fitted with a stone point. With enough skill, a hunter can throw the spear at an animal from a distance. But hunting requires teamwork. Large animals cannot be taken down by one person alone. As the group walks away from the cave, they move quietly through the forest. They are careful not to make unnecessary noise. Animals have very sensitive hearing. A single loud sound could scare away potential food. The forest floor is covered with leaves, fallen branches, and patches of soft soil. The hunters watch the ground carefully. Tracks in the soil can reveal which animals passed through the area recently. One of the hunters suddenly stops and kneels down. He points toward the ground. In the soft mud near a small stream, several fresh footprints are visible. They are large and round, with two pointed shapes at the front. These are deer tracks, and they appear to be fresh. The group studies the tracks carefully. The prints are deep, which suggests the animals were moving slowly, not running. This means the deer were likely calm and feeding nearby not long ago. The hunters quietly follow the direction of the tracks. Each step is slow and controlled. They move between trees and bushes carefully, always watching the land ahead. Minutes pass as they follow the trail deeper into the forest. Then one of the hunters raises his hand suddenly. The group freezes. Through the trees ahead, movement can be seen. A small group of deer is standing in a clearing, eating grass near the edge of the forest. The hunters remain perfectly still. Their breathing slows. The wind is blowing gently toward them, which is good. If the wind were blowing toward the deer, the animals might smell the humans and run away. Now the hunters must make a decision. Deer are fast animals. If the first spear misses, the entire group may escape within seconds. But if the hunters work together, they may succeed. Slowly, the group begins to spread out among the trees. Each hunter moves carefully to a different position. They are preparing to surround the deer without being noticed. This kind of teamwork has been practiced many times before. Early humans survived not because they were the strongest animals in nature. They survived because they worked together, because they planned, and because they were patient. In the clearing, the deer continue eating peacefully. They have not yet noticed the silent figures hidden among the trees, but the moment of action is coming very soon. The hunters grip their spears tightly, and within the quiet forest, the tension slowly builds as the prehistoric hunt is about to begin. The forest remains completely still as the hunters quietly take their positions among the trees. No one speaks. Every movement is slow and careful. The group has done this many times before, but every hunt is different. Every hunt carries risk. In the clearing ahead, the deer continue eating peacefully. They lower their heads to the ground, pulling small mouthfuls of grass while their ears move constantly, listening for danger. Deer survive by being alert. Even the smallest strange sound can send them running in an instant. The hunters know this well. That is why they move slowly, placing each step carefully on the forest floor. A broken twig or sudden movement could ruin everything. One hunter slowly crouches behind a large fallen tree. From here he can see the entire clearing. Another hunter quietly moves behind a thick bush on the opposite side. The group is slowly forming a wide circle around the deer. Their plan is simple. When the moment comes, they will move forward together and throw their spears. If they are lucky, one of the spears will strike a deer before the animals can escape. But hunting is never guaranteed. Sometimes the animals notice danger too soon, sometimes the spear misses, and sometimes the hunters must return to the cave empty-handed. Minutes pass slowly. The hunters wait patiently. A light wind moves through the trees, gently shaking the leaves above. Sunlight filters through the branches and creates moving patterns of light and shadow on the ground. Suddenly one of the deer lifts its head. Its ears turn sharply toward the forest. The animal senses something. The hunters freeze completely. Not a single person moves. The deer stands still, staring toward the trees. Its nose lifts slightly as it tries to smell the air. For a long moment, everything is silent. Then the deer lowers its head again and continues eating. The danger has not been discovered yet. One of the hunters slowly raises his arm. This is the silent signal. It means the moment has come. The other hunters prepare themselves. Each person grips their spear tightly. Their muscles tense. Their eyes lock onto the animals in the clearing. Then suddenly the hunters step forward from the trees. At the same moment, several spears fly through the air. The deer react instantly. Their heads snap up and they leap away in panic. The clearing explodes with movement. Hooves pound against the ground as the animals try to escape. One spear strikes the ground and slides through the grass. Another spear misses completely, but one spear finds its target. It strikes a deer in the side. The animal stumbles forward and lets out a sharp cry. The rest of the herd runs away quickly, disappearing into the forest in seconds. But the injured deer cannot run as fast. It struggles across the clearing, trying to escape the hunters. The hunters immediately begin chasing it. They must not lose the animal. An injured deer can still travel a long distance if not followed quickly. The hunters move fast but carefully. They keep their eyes locked on the wounded animal as it runs between the trees. After several moments, the deer begins to slow down. The spear wound has weakened it. The hunters move closer. One of them raises another spear and throws it forward. This time, the spear strikes deep into the animal's shoulder. The deer stumbles and finally collapses onto the forest floor. For a moment, the forest becomes quiet again. The hunters stand still, breathing heavily after the chase. They slowly approach the fallen animal. The hunt is over. Today the group will have food. This is an important success. Large animals provide much more than just meat. The hunters carefully begin their work. Using sharp stone knives, they start to cut the thick skin of the animal. This work must be done quickly. The smell of blood can attract dangerous predators. Wolves or bears could appear if the hunters stay too long. The hunters remove large pieces of meat and place them onto animal skins they brought with them. The skin of the deer will also be useful. It can become clothing or bedding inside the cave. Nothing is wasted. In the ancient world, every part of the animal has value. The bones can be shaped into tools. The sinew can be used as strong cord. The hide can protect against cold weather. After finishing their work, the hunters carefully lift the meat and begin the long walk back to the cave. The journey home is slower now. The heavy food must be carried across the forest. But the hunters feel satisfied. Today their group will eat well. Back at the cave, the rest of the group is waiting. The older man who stayed behind sits near the fire, slowly adding wood to keep the flames alive. The children sit nearby, watching the entrance of the cave with curiosity. When the hunters finally appear between the trees, the group quickly notices something important. They are carrying food. The children stand up excitedly. The hunters place the heavy pieces of meat near the fire. Soon the cave fills with activity. Some members begin preparing the meat. Others gather more wood for the fire. The smell of cooking food slowly spreads through the cave. For early humans, a successful hunt like this means survival for several days. But life in the prehistoric world is never easy. Tomorrow the search for food will begin again. Because in this ancient world, every day is a new challenge, and survival always depends on skill, patience, and working together. The cave slowly fills with the warm smell of fresh meat cooking over the fire. The hunters carefully place several large pieces of deer meat onto sharpened wooden sticks and hold them above the flames. Small drops of fat fall into the fire, creating soft crackling sounds as the flames briefly grow brighter. For the group, This moment is one of quiet satisfaction. A successful hunt means that everyone will eat well today. Food is never guaranteed in the prehistoric world, so every meal is valuable. The children sit close to the fire watching the cooking carefully. Their eyes follow the rising smoke as it slowly drifts upward toward the dark ceiling of the cave. Cooking food over fire is one of the most important discoveries early humans ever made. Raw meat can be tough and difficult to eat, but when it's cooked slowly over a flame, it becomes softer and easier to chew. Cooking also helps make food safer by killing harmful bacteria. Although the people in the cave do not understand these scientific details, they have learned through experience that cooked food is better. As the meat begins to cook, one of the women in the group begins preparing other foods that were gathered earlier in the day. She places several roots near the fire. These roots were dug from the ground using simple wooden digging sticks. When cooked, they become soft and provide important nutrients. Nearby, another member of the group is carefully cutting smaller pieces of meat using a sharp stone knife. The knife is made from flint, a hard type of stone that can be shaped into extremely sharp edges. Even today, flint blades are sharp enough to cut skin easily. The knife moves slowly through the meat as the man prepares pieces that will cook faster over the fire. Outside the cave, the afternoon sun now shines brightly across the valley. The forest is alive with movement. Birds fly between trees. Small animals run through the tall grass searching for seeds and insects. But inside the cave, the group remains focused on their meal. Hunting requires a great deal of energy, and the hunters are now feeling tired after the long chase through the forest. They sit near the fire, resting their legs and quietly talking with each other. Their language is simple compared to modern speech, but it is enough to share information and experiences. They speak about the hunt that just happened. One hunter imitates the movement of the deer as it tried to escape. Another gestures with his hands to show how the spears were thrown. The children listen carefully, learning from the stories of the adults. These moments are important. Knowledge about hunting, tools, and survival must be passed down from one generation to the next. Without this knowledge, survival would become much harder. Soon the meat is ready to eat. The hunters remove the sticks from above the fire and place the cooked meat onto large flat stones near the center of the group. Everyone gathers around. Meals in this prehistoric world are shared. There is no idea of personal ownership over food within the group. The success of the hunt belongs to everyone. Each person takes a piece of meat and begins eating slowly. The food is hot and rich with flavor. For the children especially, meals like this are exciting. They chew the meat carefully while listening to the adults continue their quiet conversations. As the group eats, the fire continues to burn steadily in the center of the cave. The warm light from the flames flickers across the cave walls. It illuminates the ancient drawings that cover parts of the stone surface. Animals are painted in simple shapes using natural pigments made from crushed minerals and charcoal. These paintings may have been created long ago by people who lived here before, or perhaps by the ancestors of the current group. No one knows exactly why the paintings were made. Some researchers believe they may have been connected to hunting rituals. Others think they might simply represent stories of past hunts. Whatever their purpose, they remain as silent reminders of the long history of humans living in this cave. After the meal is finished, the group begins preparing the remaining meat for storage. Although food cannot be preserved for long periods in this time, some simple techniques can help it last longer. Thin strips of meat are placed near the fire to dry slowly in the warm air. Drying meat removes moisture and helps prevent it from spoiling quickly. This process allows the group to keep some food for the next day or two. Meanwhile, one of the older members of the group begins working with the deer hide. He spreads the large skin across the ground and begins scraping away the remaining fat and tissue using a sharp stone scraper. Preparing animal hides is a slow and careful task. Once cleaned, the hide can be stretched and dried to create clothing or blankets. In colder seasons, these animal skins are essential for survival. The afternoon slowly passes as everyone works on different tasks inside the cave. Some people repair tools, Others gather dry branches outside to keep the fire burning through the night. The children play near the cave entrance, using small sticks and stones to imitate the hunting activities they watched earlier. Learning through play is natural for them. The sun slowly begins moving lower in the sky. Shadows grow longer across the valley outside the cave. Soon, evening will arrive, and with it, the forest will become a much more dangerous place. As darkness approaches, many predators begin their nightly hunts. Lions, wolves, and other powerful animals move silently through the forest searching for prey. For the humans in the cave, the fire provides protection during these hours. The light and smoke help keep many animals away from the cave entrance. Still, the group remains alert. Night in the prehistoric world is never completely safe. As the sky slowly turns orange and purple with the colours of sunset, the group finishes their work for the day. More wood is placed onto the fire. The flames grow brighter as darkness begins to settle across the land. Soon the cave will once again become a place of rest and safety. But before sleep arrives, the people of the cave will spend a few quiet hours together around the warm firelight, sharing stories of the hunt and preparing for another day of survival in the ancient world. The last light of the sun slowly fades behind the distant hills. The sky above the valley turns from orange to deep blue as evening quietly arrives. Outside the cave, the forest begins to change. During the day, the land is filled with the sounds of birds and small animals. But as darkness spreads across the world, those daytime sounds slowly disappear. A different group of creatures now begins to wake. Night animals slowly move through the forest shadows. Owls glide silently between trees. Small rodents search for seeds beneath the grass. And somewhere far away, the deep howl of a wolf echoes through the valley. Inside the cave, the group sits together around the fire. The flames glow brightly, casting warm orange light across the stone walls. The fire crackles softly as dry branches burn and small sparks rise into the air. For the people inside the cave, the fire is more than just warmth, it is safety. Most large predators fear fire and avoid its light. Without the fire burning near the entrance, the cave would feel far more dangerous during the night. The group has finished eating their evening meal. Now the cave is filled with quiet activity as everyone prepares for the night. One of the hunters carefully checks the spears that were used earlier in the day. The wooden shafts must remain strong and straight. If a spear breaks during a hunt, it could mean losing a chance at food. He slowly runs his hand along the wood, checking for cracks or weak places. Another member of the group sits nearby shaping a new stone tool. He holds a piece of flint in one hand and taps it carefully with a hammerstone. Each strike removes a thin, sharp piece of stone. Slowly, the shape of a small blade begins to appear. The children sit close to the fire, watching this process with curiosity. Stone tool making is one of the most important skills in their world. Without sharp tools, hunting and preparing food would become extremely difficult. One of the children picks up a small stone and tries to copy the movements of the adult. But shaping stone tools requires practice and patience. The stone slips from the child's hand and falls onto the cave floor. The adults smile gently and continue their work. Learning takes time. Over the years, the children will slowly develop these skills. Near the back of the cave, one of the women is finishing the work on the deer hide from the hunt earlier that day. The large skin is stretched tightly across several wooden stakes pushed into the ground. Using a stone scraper, she carefully removes the last pieces of fat from the inner surface of the hide. This work must be done slowly and carefully. If the hide is not cleaned properly, it will begin to smell and rot. Once it is fully cleaned, it can be dried and used as warm clothing or bedding. In colder seasons, animal skins are the only protection humans have against freezing temperatures. As the evening continues, the cave becomes a calm and peaceful place. The warm firelight flickers across the stone walls, illuminating the ancient drawings once again. One of the older members of the group sits quietly near the fire looking at the paintings. His face shows the marks of many years. He has seen many seasons pass, many hunts, many long winters, and many changes in the group over time. Perhaps he remembers stories told to him when he was a child. Stories about the animals painted on the cave walls. Stories about the land and the spirits of nature. In early human communities, stories are an important way of sharing knowledge. Without written language, memories must be passed down through spoken words. The older members of the group play an important role in keeping those memories alive. The children move closer to the fire as the night air grows cooler. One of the adults begins telling a story about a great hunt that happened long ago. His voice is calm and steady. He gestures with his hands as he describes the powerful animal they once hunted. A massive woolly mammoth. The children listen with wide eyes. The idea of such a giant animal fills their imagination. The storyteller describes how the hunters worked together to guide the mammoth toward a narrow valley, how they used fire and loud noises to confuse the animal, and how they finally succeeded in bringing it down after a long and dangerous struggle. For early humans, stories like this are not only entertainment, they are lessons. They teach the younger members of the group how to survive in the world around them. Outside the cave, the darkness is now fully settled across the land. The stars begin to appear one by one in the night sky. Without the bright lights of modern cities, the ancient sky is filled with thousands of shining stars. The Milky Way stretches across the heavens like a glowing river of light. From the cave entrance, one of the children looks up at the sky in wonder. Early humans spent many nights looking at these same stars. They may not have understood what the stars were, but they likely noticed patterns and movements in the sky. These patterns would later become the foundation of early human understanding of time and seasons. As the night grows deeper, the fire continues to burn steadily. Some members of the group begin preparing their sleeping places. Animal skins are spread across the cave floor once again. The warmest places are closest to the fire. Sleeping near the fire helps keep the cold night air away. But someone must remain awake to watch the flames. If the fire burns too low during the night, it must be fed with more wood. Allowing the fire to go out could make the cave cold and unsafe before morning. Tonight one of the hunters will take the first watch. He sits quietly near the fire while the others slowly lie down to sleep. The cave becomes quiet except for the gentle sound of breathing and the soft crackling of burning wood. Outside, the forest remains alive with the sounds of night creatures. But inside the cave, the small group of early humans rest safely together. Their day of hunting, gathering, and survival has come to an end. Tomorrow, when the sun rises once again above the ancient land, a new day will begin. And with it will come new challenges, new dangers, and new chances for survival in the long and difficult life of a caveman. The night has grown deep and quiet across the prehistoric valley. Inside the cave, most of the group is now asleep. Their bodies rest beneath thick animal skins spread across the stone floor. The fire near the entrance continues to burn slowly, its orange light flickering softly against the cave walls. Only one person remains awake. The hunter who took the first watch sits near the fire, carefully feeding small pieces of wood into the glowing flames. Keeping the fire alive through the night is an important responsibility. Without the fire, the cave would quickly grow cold and dark, and more importantly, the fire helps protect the group from dangerous animals that roam the forest after sunset. Outside the cave, the world belongs to the hunters of the night. Far away in the darkness, a wolf howls again, its long cry echoing through the valley. Another wolf answers from a different direction. Soon several voices join together in a chorus that travels through the cold night air. The hunter, listening beside the fire, remains calm. He has heard these sounds many times before. Wolves are dangerous, but they rarely approach a cave that holds humans and fire. Still, the hunter watches the darkness carefully. His eyes move between the glowing fire and the shadowy forest beyond the cave entrance. The night air is cool and fresh. Above the valley, the sky is filled with countless stars. Without the bright lights of modern cities, the ancient night sky is breathtaking. A wide river of pale light stretches across the heavens. This glowing band of stars is what we now call the Milky Way. To the caveman sitting beside the fire, it is simply a mysterious pattern shining in the darkness. Perhaps the early humans imagined that these lights are spirits watching the world below, or perhaps they simply admire their beauty without trying to understand them. After some time passes, the hunter stands and stretches his tired legs. The long day of hunting has left his muscles sore and heavy, but he cannot fall asleep yet. Someone must remain awake while the others rest. The fire suddenly pops as a small branch collapses into the glowing coals. A few sparks rise quickly into the air before fading into darkness. The hunter adds another piece of dry wood to the fire. The flames grow brighter for a moment, lighting the cave more clearly. Across the cave floor, the rest of the group sleeps peacefully. The children lie close to their parents for warmth and comfort. Their breathing is slow and steady. For them, sleep comes easily after a long day of activity. Near the back of the cave, the older man shifts slightly in his sleep. Age has slowed his movements over the years, but his experience and knowledge remain valuable to the group. He remembers many seasons, many migrations of animals, and many lessons learned through survival. These memories help guide the younger members of the group. Suddenly, the hunter near the fire hears something unusual. A faint sound from outside the cave. At first, it is only a small movement in the grass. Then another sound follows. The hunter becomes alert immediately. He quietly stands and walks closer to the cave entrance. His eyes search the darkness beyond the firelight. The forest outside remains mostly hidden in shadows, but something is moving. A large shape slowly appears at the edge of the trees. The hunter tightens his grip on a wooden spear leaning beside the cave wall. The shape moves closer. Now it becomes easier to see in the firelight. It is a large animal, much larger than a deer. The creature walks slowly toward the cave entrance, sniffing the air as it moves. The hunter watches carefully. Soon he recognizes the animal. It is a giant cave bear. Cave bears are among the largest animals living in this ancient world. Standing on their hind legs, they can be taller than a human. Their thick fur protects them from cold winters, and their powerful claws can tear through wood and bone. Although bears often eat plants and fish, they can also become very dangerous if they feel threatened. The cave bear stops several steps away from the entrance. Its large nose lifts as it smells the air. The scent of cooked meat still lingers around the cave. The hunter remains perfectly still. The fire between him and the bear burns brightly, sending waves of heat and smoke into the night air. The bear snorts softly and takes another step forward. For a moment, the situation becomes tense. If the bear decides to enter the cave, the hunter will have to wake the rest of the group quickly. But something important happens. The bear suddenly stops moving. Its nose wrinkles slightly as it smells the smoke from the fire. Most wild animals instinctively avoid fire. The heat, light, and unfamiliar smell make them uncomfortable. The bear hesitates. It takes one more sniff of the air, then slowly turns away. After a few moments, the massive animal disappears back into the dark forest. The hunter lets out a quiet breath of relief. The danger has passed. This moment is a powerful reminder of how important fire truly is. Without it, the cave would be far less safe during the night. The hunter returns to his place beside the flames and feeds another branch into the fire. Soon the next person responsible for watching the fire begins to wake. They quietly exchange places. The first hunter finally lies down near the warm stones beside the fire. Within minutes, sleep slowly takes him as well. The cave becomes peaceful once again. The fire continues to burn softly as the night slowly moves toward morning. And somewhere beyond the hills, the first faint light of a new day is already beginning to rise. Slowly, the long prehistoric night begins to come to an end. Far beyond the hills, the sky starts to change colour. At first, it is only a faint grey light spreading across the horizon. Then slowly, the darkness begins to fade as the first signs of morning appear. Inside the cave, the fire still burns gently near the entrance. Its flames are smaller now, but the glowing embers still provide warmth. The person who took the final watch during the night sits quietly beside the fire, patiently waiting for the rest of the group to wake. Outside, the forest begins to stir once again. The night creatures slowly return to their hiding places. Owls glide silently back toward their nests in the tall trees. Small animals disappear into burrows beneath the ground. Soon the first birds begin their morning calls. Their songs echo softly through the valley. The sound slowly reaches the cave entrance. Inside, one of the children begins to move beneath the animal skins. He stretches his arms and opens his eyes slowly. The warm glow of the fire is the first thing he sees. Morning has arrived. Soon the rest of the group begins waking up one by one. Some people sit up slowly, rubbing sleep from their eyes. Others stretch their tired muscles after a long night of rest. The cave gradually fills with quiet movement. The fire watcher adds several new branches to the glowing embers. Within moments, the flames grow stronger again. Warm light spreads across the cave walls. The day has officially begun. For early humans, morning always brings the same important question. What must be done today to survive? Food must be gathered, tools must be repaired, and the group must remain alert for any danger in the surrounding land. The hunters from the previous day are still feeling tired from their successful deer hunt, but life in the prehistoric world does not allow long periods of rest. Work begins again almost immediately. One of the women steps outside the cave carrying a woven plant basket. She plans to search the nearby forest for berries and edible plants. Although hunting large animals provides valuable meat, plant foods are just as important for survival. Berries, nuts, roots, and seeds make up a large part of the early human diet. These foods are easier to gather and often safer to obtain than hunting. Two other members of the group decide to go with her. Travelling together provides extra safety. Predators are less likely to attack a group than a single person alone. Before leaving, they take a few simple tools with them. One carries a digging stick made from a strong branch with a sharpened tip. This tool will help dig roots from the ground. Another carries a small stone knife for cutting plants and removing bark. They step carefully into the morning forest. The air is cool and fresh after the long night. Drops of dew cover the grass and leaves. Sunlight slowly begins to shine through the trees as the sun rises higher in the sky. Inside the cave, the remaining members of the group begin their own tasks. One hunter sits near the entrance examining a broken spear from yesterday's hunt. The wooden shaft cracked slightly when it struck the deer. If it is not repaired, it could break completely during the next hunt. Using a sharp stone blade, he carefully removes the damaged section of wood. Then he selects a new straight branch from a small pile of wood gathered earlier. He slowly shapes the end of the branch to form a strong spear tip. Nearby, another member of the group begins shaping new stone tools. The process of making stone tools is slow but important work. The flint must be struck at exactly the right angle to produce sharp edges. Too much force can shatter the stone completely. Too little force will not shape the blade properly. Years of practice are required to master this skill. The children watch closely once again. One of them picks up a small piece of stone and studies its shape carefully. Curiosity is a powerful teacher. Every small observation helps the younger generation learn how to survive. Meanwhile, far from the cave, the group searching for plants moves deeper into the forest. They walk slowly, scanning the ground and bushes around them. Soon one of them stops beside a cluster of low bushes covered with small dark berries. She smiles slightly and begins picking the fruit carefully. The berries are sweet and full of energy. She places them gently into the woven basket she carries. The others quickly begin searching the area for more food. Not every plant in the forest is safe to eat. Over many generations, humans have learned which plants provide food and which ones must be avoided. This knowledge is passed down carefully from parents to children. Mistakes with unknown plants can sometimes lead to sickness or even death. After gathering berries for some time, one of the group members notices something interesting on the ground. Fresh animal tracks appear in the soft soil near a small stream. These tracks are different from the deer tracks seen the day before. They are round and large, with deep claw marks in the dirt. The person studying them quickly recognizes the shape. They belong to a bear. The group becomes alert immediately. Bears are powerful animals and can be very dangerous if surprised. The group studies the tracks carefully. The prints seem to be heading in the opposite direction from where they are standing. That is a good sign. It likely means the animal passed through the area during the night and has already moved on. Still, the group decides to move more carefully through the forest. Gathering food is important, but staying alive is always more important. They slowly continue their search, keeping their eyes and ears alert for any signs of danger. Back at the cave, the sun is now fully above the horizon. Warm light fills the valley outside. The hunters who stayed behind step outside the cave entrance and look across the land. Another day in the life of a caveman has begun, and as always, the ancient world around them remains both beautiful and unpredictable. The morning sun now shines brightly across the prehistoric valley. Warm golden light spreads slowly across the tall grass and rocky hills surrounding the cave. A gentle wind moves through the trees, causing the leaves to whisper softly together. For the small group of early humans living inside the cave, the day has already become busy with activity. Some members of the group are still inside the cave working on tools and preparing supplies. Others have already travelled into the forest to gather food and explore the surrounding land. Life in the prehistoric world rarely allows anyone to remain idle for long. Every moment of daylight is valuable. The group that left the cave earlier in the morning continues walking deeper into the forest. Their woven basket is slowly filling with berries and edible plants. The forest around them is quiet but full of hidden life. Sunlight filters through the branches above, creating moving patches of light on the ground. Birds fly between the trees searching for insects. In the distance, the faint sound of flowing water grows louder. Soon the group reaches a narrow stream winding through the forest floor. The clear water moves gently over smooth stones. One of the women kneels beside the stream and cups her hands into the water. She drinks slowly, enjoying the cool freshness. The others follow her example. Clean water is just as important as food for survival. After drinking, they carefully refill a small container made from a hollowed piece of wood. Carrying water back to the cave can be helpful later in the day. As they prepare to leave the stream, one of them suddenly freezes. Something has caught his attention. Across the water, hidden partly among the tall grass, a small animal moves quietly. It is a wild rabbit. The animal stands still for a moment, its ears turning carefully as it listens to the forest around it. The group notices it immediately. Although rabbits are much smaller than deer, they still provide valuable food. One member of the group slowly reaches for a small throwing stick hanging at his side. This tool is simple but useful for hunting smaller animals. He carefully steps forward, trying not to make any sudden movements. The rabbit lowers its head to nibble at the grass. For a brief moment, the hunter raises his arm and throws the stick. The stick flies quickly through the air. The rabbit leaps suddenly and runs across the grass. The stick strikes the ground just behind it. Within seconds, the rabbit disappears into a thick patch of bushes. The hunter sighs quietly. The attempt has failed. But failure is common in hunting. Not every opportunity leads to success. The group simply continues their search for other food sources. Meanwhile, back at the cave, another important activity is taking place. One of the hunters has decided to teach a young boy how to make a simple spear. The boy watches carefully as the hunter selects a long straight branch from a pile of wood. The hunter uses a stone blade to slowly remove the bark from the branch. He then begins shaping one end of the stick into a sharp point. The boy tries to copy the movements using a smaller branch. His first attempt is rough and uneven, but the hunter smiles and gently guides his hands, showing him the correct angle to cut the wood. Skills like this must be learned early in life. Every member of the group will one day need to hunt or gather food. The future survival of the group depends on teaching these skills to the next generation. Outside the cave, the sun continues to climb higher into the sky. The valley becomes warmer as midday approaches. Far across the grasslands, a herd of large animals slowly moves along the horizon. These are woolly mammoths. Their massive bodies are covered in thick fur that protects them from cold weather. Their long curved tusks shine in the sunlight as they walk slowly across the land. For early humans, mammoths are both a valuable resource and a great danger. A successful mammoth hunt could provide enough meat to feed a group for many days. But such hunts require large groups of hunters and careful planning. A single mistake could lead to serious injury or death. The hunters near the cave watch the distant herd quietly. Today they will not attempt such a dangerous hunt. Their group is too small at the moment. Instead, they simply observe the animals from afar. Understanding the movement of large animals helps hunters prepare for future opportunities. Soon the group that went into the forest begins returning toward the cave. Their basket is now filled with berries, nuts, and several edible roots. The morning has been successful. As they approach the cave entrance, the children run forward to greet them excitedly. The gathered food is placed carefully near the fire. Some of the berries are eaten immediately, others are saved for later in the day. The roots will be cooked slowly over the fire to make them softer and easier to eat. The day continues with small tasks and quiet activity around the cave. Some members repair tools, others collect more firewood from the nearby forest. The children continue practicing with their small spears and sticks, pretending to hunt imaginary animals in the grass. The sun slowly moves across the sky, marking the passage of another day in the ancient world. For the people of the cave, life follows a steady rhythm: hunt, gather, work, rest, and always remain watchful of the land around them. Because in this prehistoric world, survival depends not only on strength, but also on patience, knowledge, and the ability to work together as a group. The sun now stands high above the valley, shining brightly across the wide prehistoric landscape. The warmth of midday spreads across the rocky hills, the tall grasses, and the thick forests surrounding the cave. For the small group of early humans living here, the middle of the day is often quieter than the busy morning hours. Most of the important searching and hunting takes place during the cooler parts of the day. Now, as the sunlight grows stronger, many animals also slow down and rest in the shade. Near the cave entrance, the group sits together while preparing the food gathered earlier in the morning. Several roots are placed carefully beside the fire. The heat slowly softens them as they cook beneath the warm ashes. The smell of roasting roots fills the air with a mild, earthy scent. One of the women crushes a handful of berries inside a small stone bowl. She uses a smooth round rock to press the berries into a thick paste. This mixture can be eaten with other foods, adding sweetness and energy. Nearby, one of the hunters continues working on his spear. He sits on a flat rock just outside the cave entrance, where the sunlight helps him see clearly. In his hands, he holds a sharp flint blade. With careful movements, he trims the wooden shaft of the spear, making it smooth and straight. Every detail matters when preparing a hunting tool. A spear must be balanced so it flies accurately when thrown. Even a small bend in the wood can cause the spear to miss its target. Not far from him, the children continue their own small adventures. They run through the grass near the cave, laughing as they pretend to track imaginary animals. One child kneels down suddenly and points toward the ground. He has discovered a small set of footprints in the soft dirt. The other children gather around him with curiosity. The footprints belong to a small animal, perhaps a fox or a wild dog that passed through the area earlier. One of the adults walks over and studies the tracks carefully. Learning to read tracks is an important survival skill. Tracks reveal not only which animals have passed through an area, but also when they passed and how fast they were moving. The adult points out the shape of the paw prints to the children. He explains through gestures and simple words how the animal walked across the ground. The children listen carefully, their curiosity growing stronger. These lessons will become very valuable as they grow older. Far from the cave, the large herd of woolly mammoths seen earlier in the day continues moving slowly across the distant plains. Their heavy footsteps shake the ground slightly as they travel. The herd is made up of several massive animals, along with smaller young ones walking close beside their mothers. The mammoths use their long trunks to pull grass from the earth while they walk. They move slowly but steadily across the land in search of food. Although the humans near the cave can see the distant shapes of the herd, they know better than to approach them today. Hunting such enormous animals requires many hunters working together. Sometimes entire groups of early humans gather for these dangerous hunts. They may guide the mammoth toward cliffs or narrow valleys where the animal cannot escape easily. But such hunts are rare and risky. For now, the people near the cave simply watch the distant herd with respect. The afternoon slowly continues. The shadows grow shorter beneath the bright sun. Inside the cave, the fire burns steadily as the cooked roots are finally ready to eat. The group gathers once again to share the meal. Each person takes a portion of the soft roots along with berries and pieces of dried meat from the previous hunt. The food is simple but nourishing. Every bite provides energy needed for the challenges of survival. As the group eats, the older man begins speaking quietly with one of the hunters. He points toward the distant hills and gestures toward the sky. He's describing something he has noticed many times over the years: the changing position of the sun, the movement of seasons. Early humans gradually learned to recognize patterns in nature. They noticed when animals migrated across the land. They noticed when certain plants grew or disappeared, and they noticed how the weather changed throughout the year. These observations helped them prepare for difficult seasons ahead. Cold winters could bring great hardship if food was not available. Understanding the rhythms of nature became an important advantage for survival. After finishing their meal, several members of the group decide to explore the nearby hills. Sometimes new sources of food can be found in places they have not visited recently. They carry their spears and stone knives as they leave the cave once again. The children watch them go with excitement. Exploration always carries a sense of adventure. The small group climbs slowly up the rocky hillside overlooking the valley. From this high place, the view becomes much wider. They can see the forest stretching across the land. They can see the river winding through the valley far below. And in the distance they can still see the slow movement of the mammoth herd across the plains. But as they stand quietly observing the land, something unexpected happens. One of the hunters suddenly raises his hand, signaling the others to stop moving. Far below the hill, near the edge of the forest, another group of humans appears. They are small dark figures moving slowly across the grass. The hunters watch carefully. These strangers are not members of their group. They belong to another tribe of early humans living somewhere nearby. Encounters like this can be unpredictable. Sometimes different groups trade resources or share information about the land. Other times they simply avoid each other and continue on their separate paths. The hunters remain silent as they watch the strangers from their high position. The other group does not appear to notice them. After a few moments, the strangers continue walking toward the forest and disappear among the trees. The hunters relax slightly once they are gone. The world of early humans is large and full of unknown people and places. Each group must remain careful when encountering others. After observing the valley for a while longer, the hunters begin their slow walk back toward the cave. The afternoon sun has begun its gradual journey toward the horizon. Another day in the life of a caveman is slowly moving toward evening. And as always, the ancient world remains full of both opportunity and mystery. The afternoon slowly begins to soften as the bright sun moves lower in the sky. Long shadows stretch across the prehistoric valley, slowly creeping over the tall grass and rocky ground. The heat of midday begins to fade, replaced by a cooler and calmer feeling in the air. For the small group living inside the cave, this is the time when the land becomes active again. Many animals that hid from the strong midday sun now begin to move once more. Hunters know this is one of the best moments of the day to search for food. Near the cave entrance, several members of the group prepare themselves to leave again. They check their spears carefully. Each spear has been sharpened earlier in the day with a stone blade. The wooden shafts are smooth and straight. One hunter runs his fingers along the tip of the spear, making sure it is strong enough to pierce thick animal hide. Beside him, another hunter ties a thin strip of animal sinew around the spearhead to keep the sharp stone point firmly attached. These tools may look simple, but they are the result of many generations of learning and practice. Each improvement in toolmaking has helped early humans become more successful hunters. Nearby, the children watch the preparation with great interest. They have seen this process many times before, yet it still feels exciting. One of the boys holds his small practice spear and copies the movements of the adults. He pretends to sharpen the tip just like the hunters do. The older members of the group smile quietly. One day, these children will join the real hunts. For now, they are learning by watching and practicing. Soon the hunters leave the cave and begin walking toward the open grasslands. The air now feels cooler, and the wind has become slightly stronger. Clouds drift slowly across the sky above them. As they walk, their eyes constantly scan the land for movement. Every hunter learns to notice the smallest details. A broken branch, fresh footprints in the dirt, a sudden movement in the tall grass. All of these signs can reveal the presence of animals nearby. After walking for some time, the group reaches a wide open area of grassland. The tall grass moves gently in the wind like waves across the land. Suddenly, one of the hunters stops and kneels down. He points toward the ground. There, pressed into the soft soil, are several large footprints. The tracks are fresh. The shape is unmistakable. These are deer tracks. The hunters follow the trail carefully, moving slowly and quietly through the grass. Each step must be careful. If they make too much noise, the animals may hear them and escape. The trail leads toward a cluster of small trees near the edge of the valley. The hunters crouch low as they approach the area. They can now hear faint sounds ahead. Leaves moving, soft steps on the ground. Peering through the grass, they finally see them. A small group of deer is grazing peacefully near the trees, their heads lower to the ground as they pull grass from the soil. Occasionally one of them lifts its head, its ears turning as it listens to the wind. The hunters remain completely still. They wait patiently for the right moment. Patience is one of the most important skills in hunting. A single careless movement could ruin the entire opportunity. Slowly, two of the hunters move to different positions, surrounding the animals from two sides. Another hunter prepares his spear and grips it tightly. The wind blows gently toward the hunters, carrying their scent away from the deer. This small detail gives them an advantage. Suddenly, one of the deer lifts its head higher than the others. It senses something unusual in the air. The hunters know the moment has arrived. In one quick motion, a spear flies through the air. It cuts through the tall grass and strikes one of the deer. The animal leaps forward and begins to run. The rest of the herd scatters in all directions, but the injured deer cannot run far. Within moments it slows down and collapses in the grass. The hunters approach carefully. They show respect for the animal that will now provide food for their group. In the prehistoric world, hunting is not done for sport. It is done for survival. Every successful hunt means another day of life for the people waiting back at the cave. The hunters begin the work of preparing the animal. Using sharp stone knives, they carefully remove the meat and useful materials from the deer. Nothing is wasted. The meat will be eaten. The bones can be shaped into tools. The hide can be used for clothing or shelter. Even the sinew can be used to tie weapons together. Nature provides everything they need if used wisely. As the hunters work, the sky slowly begins to change colour. The bright blue fades into softer shades of orange and gold. The sun begins to sink toward the distant hills. Evening is approaching. The hunters finish their work and begin carrying the meat back toward the cave. Although the load is heavy, their steps are steady. They know the group will be happy to see the success of the hunt. Far ahead, smoke from the cave fire rises gently into the evening sky. The children waiting near the cave entrance notice the hunters returning. Excited voices echo through the valley as they run forward to greet them. Another successful hunt has brought food and hope for the night ahead. As darkness slowly begins to fall across the ancient world, the small group gathers once again around the warm fire inside their cave. And another chapter in the long story of prehistoric survival continues quietly beneath the stars. The evening slowly settles across the prehistoric valley. The bright orange glow of the setting sun spreads across the sky, painting the clouds in warm colours of gold and red. The long shadows of trees stretch across the land as darkness gradually approaches. Near the cave entrance, the small group of early humans gathers together once again. The hunters have returned successfully from the grasslands. The deer they hunted earlier now lies near the fire, ready to be prepared for food. For the people of the cave, a successful hunt is always an important moment. It means the group will eat well tonight. It also means strength for the difficult days that will come in the future. One of the hunters begins carefully cutting the meat using a sharp stone knife. The blade glides slowly through the thick muscle of the animal. Another member of the group gathers dry branches and adds them to the fire. The flames rise slightly higher, sending sparks dancing upward into the darkening air. The smell of fresh meat soon fills the cave as pieces are placed near the fire to cook. Some of the meat will be eaten tonight. Other pieces will be dried and saved for later days when hunting may not be successful. Preserving food is an important skill in this ancient world. Food cannot always be found easily. Saving some of it for the future helps the group survive difficult times. The children sit close to the fire, watching the work with fascination. Their eyes follow every movement of the hunters as they prepare the animal. One of the boys quietly asks a question, using simple words and gestures. He wants to know how the hunters were able to catch the deer. The hunter smiles slightly and begins explaining the hunt. He describes how they followed the tracks through the grass. He shows with his hands how the wind helped hide their scent from the animals. The children listen closely. These stories are more than simple entertainment. They are lessons. Every story about a hunt teaches something important about survival. Far outside the cave, the valley slowly grows darker. Night animals begin to wake from their daytime rest. The distant howl of a wolf echoes across the hills. Inside the cave, the fire becomes the centre of warmth and safety. The flickering light dances across the stone walls. Shadows move gently around the cave as the flames shift and crackle. The cooked meat is finally ready to eat. Each member of the group receives a portion. They eat slowly, enjoying the warmth and nourishment of the food. The roasted deer meat is rich and filling. Combined with berries and roots gathered earlier in the day, the meal gives the group valuable energy. After eating, the cave grows quieter. Some members of the group begin cleaning their tools. Stone blades are wiped carefully and placed back into their leather pouches. Spears are leaned against the cave wall, ready for the next hunt. Others simply sit quietly near the fire, resting their tired bodies after a long day. One of the older members of the group begins speaking softly. He tells a story about a hunt that happened many seasons ago. His voice rises and falls gently as he describes a time when the group worked together to hunt a giant mammoth. The children listen with wide eyes. The idea of such a massive animal fills their imagination with excitement and wonder. In ancient times, stories like these were an important way to pass knowledge from one generation to the next. Without written language, memory and storytelling became the library of early humans. Every story carried lessons about danger, courage, and survival. As the fire burns lower, the stars slowly begin appearing in the night sky outside the cave. The prehistoric world has no artificial lights. Because of this, the stars appear brighter and clearer than anything most people today have ever seen. Thousands of tiny lights spread across the darkness above the valley. One of the children steps outside the cave and looks upward in amazement. The night sky has always fascinated humans. Even the earliest people wondered about the glowing lights above them. Some believed the stars were spirits watching the world. Others believed they were fires burning in the sky. Whatever they believed, the stars became an important part of their understanding of the world. Inside the cave, the group slowly prepares to sleep. Animal hides are spread across the ground to create a softer place to rest. The fire is carefully reduced but not completely extinguished. Keeping a small flame burning through the night helps keep predators away. It also provides warmth during the cold night hours. The hunters lie down near the cave wall, their spears within reach. Even while resting, they must remain ready for danger. The children curl up beside their parents beneath thick animal skins. The sounds of the night continue outside the cave. Owls call softly from the forest. Small animals move through the grass searching for food. The wind brushes gently across the valley. Inside the cave, the group slowly drifts into sleep. Their bodies rest after another full day of hunting, gathering, and survival. For these early humans, every day brings new challenges, but it also brings new knowledge and experience, and with every passing season, they grow better at understanding the land that surrounds them. Their lives may be simple, but their connection to nature is deep and powerful. Under the silent stars of the ancient sky, the people of the cave sleep peacefully, ready to face whatever the next day will bring. Night has now fully settled across the ancient valley. The sky above the cave is deep and dark, filled with thousands of shining stars that stretch endlessly across the horizon. Without cities or bright lights, the prehistoric night sky appears unbelievably clear and powerful. Every star glows like a tiny fire in the distance. Inside the cave, the small group of early humans rest quietly around the fading fire. The flames are no longer tall and bright. Instead, the fire burns slowly, glowing red and orange beneath the dark pieces of wood and ash. A gentle warmth spreads through the cave, protecting the group from the cold air outside. Most of the people are asleep now. Their breathing is slow and calm as they recover from the long day of the hunting and gathering. But not everyone is sleeping. One of the hunters remains awake near the entrance of the cave. Tonight he is keeping watch. In the ancient world, night can be dangerous. Predators often move through the darkness searching for food. The watchman sits quietly with his spear resting beside him. His eyes move slowly across the valley, scanning the shadows for movement. Outside, the wind brushes gently through the tall grass. The sound is soft and steady, like waves moving across a quiet sea. Far away, a wolf howls once again beneath the starry sky. The sound echoes across the distant hills before fading into silence. The hunter listens carefully, but does not appear worried. Wolves rarely attack groups of humans near a fire. Still, he remains alert. Suddenly, a small rustling sound comes from the bushes near the cave entrance. The hunter slowly lifts his spear and leans forward slightly. His eyes focus on the dark shape moving through the grass. After a moment, a small animal appears from the shadows. It is only a fox sniffing the ground in search of scraps of food. The fox pauses when it sees the faint glow of the fire and quickly runs away into the darkness. The hunter relaxes again. Moments like this happen often during the night. The ancient world is always alive with movement, even while most humans sleep. Inside the cave, one of the children shifts slightly beneath the animal skins. He opens his eyes and quietly looks toward the entrance. The glowing firelight dances across the cave walls, creating strange shapes and shadows. For a moment, the child simply watches the quiet scene. Then he slowly drifts back into sleep. Hours pass quietly beneath the endless stars. Gradually, the sky begins to change once again. Far in the east, a faint grey light slowly appears along the horizon. Morning is approaching. The hunter notices the change first. He has seen this moment many times before. The long night is slowly ending. Birds begin to stir in the trees outside the cave. Their soft calls break the silence of the early morning. Soon the first rays of sunlight begin to rise over the distant hills. The light spreads slowly across the valley, touching the grass, the rocks, and the trees. Inside the cave, the warmth of the rising sun begins to replace the fading warmth of the fire. One of the women wakes first and stretches quietly. She steps toward the cave entrance and looks out across the valley. The fresh morning air feels cool and clean. Soon the rest of the group begins waking as well. The children rub their eyes and slowly sit up. Another new day has begun in the life of the cave people. The hunters stand and step outside the cave to examine the land. They always begin the day by observing their surroundings. Did any animals pass nearby during the night? Are there fresh tracks in the ground? Is the weather changing? These small details can affect the entire day. One hunter kneels near the entrance and studies the soil carefully. He notices several small tracks left by animals during the night. Rabbits, foxes, and other small creatures pass through the area while the humans slept. This information helps the hunters decide where they might search for food later in the day. Meanwhile, the others begin preparing the morning fire once again. New pieces of dry wood are placed onto the glowing coals from the night before. Soon the flames rise again, bringing warmth and light back into the cave. Breakfast is simple. Some dried meat from the previous hunt is shared among the group. Berries gathered the day before are eaten as well. Although the meal is small, it provides enough energy to begin the new day. The children once again begin playing near the cave entrance. They laugh and run through the grass, enjoying the bright morning sunlight. For them, this ancient world is full of adventure and discovery. Every rock, every plant, and every animal is something new to explore. The adults watch them carefully while preparing for the tasks of the day. Soon the hunters will leave once again to search for food. Others will gather plants, roots, and berries from the surrounding forest. Life in the prehistoric world is a constant cycle of work, learning, and survival. But it is also a life deeply connected to nature. These early humans understand the land in ways that modern people often forget. They watch the sky. They read the tracks of animals. They listen to the wind and the birds. Every part of the natural world provides clues about how to survive. As the sun rises higher into the sky, the valley once again fills with life and movement. Another day has begun for the people of the cave, and their long journey through history continues one sunrise at a time. The sun has now climbed higher above the prehistoric valley. Warm light spreads across the grasslands, touching every tree, rock, and hill with a soft golden glow. The cool morning air slowly begins to warm as the day continues. Outside the cave, the small group of early humans is already moving with purpose. A new day always brings new challenges. Food must be found again, water must be collected, tools must be maintained. Life in this ancient world never truly stops. The hunters stand together near the entrance of the cave, quietly discussing their plan for the day. They speak using simple sounds, gestures, and expressions. Although their language is not complex like modern languages, it is enough to share important ideas. One of the hunters points toward the distant forest. Earlier that morning he noticed fresh animal tracks leading in that direction. The marks in the soil suggested that several deer had passed through the valley during the night. For the hunters, this is a promising sign. Deer provide a large amount of meat for the entire group. After a few moments of planning, the hunters prepare to leave. They gather their spears and stone knives. Each weapon has been carefully crafted using sharp stones and strong wooden shafts. These tools are simple, but they are extremely effective when used with skill. Before leaving, the hunters take a moment to examine the wind. One of them lifts a small handful of dry dirt and releases it into the air. The tiny particles drift gently toward the east. This tells them the direction of the wind. Understanding the wind is important when hunting. If animals smell human scent, they will run away long before the hunters can get close. Satisfied with their plan, the hunters quietly begin walking across the valley. Their steps are careful and silent. Every movement is controlled to avoid making unnecessary noise. Back at the cave, the rest of the group begins their own tasks. 2 women prepare to gather food from the forest nearby. They carry small woven baskets made from plant fibers. These baskets will hold berries, roots, nuts, and other edible plants. Several children follow them eagerly. Gathering food is not only work, it is also an opportunity for the young ones to learn about the natural world around them. As they walk through the forest, one of the women stops beside a bush filled with dark berries. She carefully picks one berry and examines it. Not all berries are safe to eat. Some plants in the forest can be dangerous. She knows exactly which ones are safe because she has learned this knowledge from many seasons of experience. After confirming that the berries are safe, she begins collecting them into her basket. The children quickly help, carefully picking the small fruits from the branches. Their laughter echoes softly through the quiet forest. Meanwhile, deeper in the valley, the hunters slowly follow the trail of the deer. The tracks are faint but still visible in the soft soil. One hunter kneels occasionally to study the ground. He notices broken grass, disturbed dirt, and small marks left by hooves. Each clue tells a part of the story of where the animals have travelled. The hunters move slowly and patiently. Hunting is not about speed. It is about observation and timing. Suddenly, one of the hunters freezes and raises his hand. The others stop immediately. Through the tall grass ahead, several deer can be seen grazing peacefully. The animals have not noticed the hunters yet. The group quietly spreads out, forming a wide circle around the deer. This strategy prevents the animals from escaping easily. Each hunter grips his spear tightly. The moment of action is close. One hunter slowly steps forward, moving silently through the grass. The wind continues blowing in the hunter's favour, carrying their scent away from the animals. The deer remain calm, unaware of the danger approaching. Then suddenly the lead hunter throws his spear. The weapon flies through the air and strikes one of the deer. The animal leaps in shock and begins running. Immediately the other hunters move forward, shouting and throwing their spears as well. After a short chase, the wounded deer finally collapses in the grass. The hunters approach carefully to make sure the animal no longer suffers. Once the hunt is complete, the hunters stand quietly for a moment. For them, hunting is not only about survival, it is also a moment of respect for the life of the animal that now feeds their group. Soon they begin preparing the deer to be carried back to the cave. Using their stone knives, they carefully cut the meat and separate useful parts of the animal. Nothing will be wasted. The skin will become clothing or bedding. The bones may be used to create tools or needles. The meat will feed the entire group for several days. Meanwhile, in the forest, the gatherers have filled their baskets with berries, nuts, and edible roots. The children proudly carry small handfuls of food as they walk back toward the cave. When the hunters finally return with the deer, the entire group gathers together. The children stare with excitement at the large animal. They know that tonight there will be plenty of food. Once again, the cave becomes a place of activity and cooperation. Everyone plays a role in preparing the food and maintaining the group's survival. Another day in the life of the cave people continues, filled with effort, teamwork, and the constant connection between humans and the natural world around them. By the time the hunters return to the cave with the deer, the sun has already begun its slow journey toward the western hills. The light in the valley becomes softer and warmer, stretching long shadows across the ground. For the small group of cave people, the afternoon is one of the busiest times of the day. Now that food has been successfully found, the real work begins. The deer is carefully placed on the flat ground near the cave entrance. Everyone gathers around quietly. The children watch with wide, curious eyes as the adults begin preparing the animal. One of the older hunters kneels beside the deer and begins using a sharp stone knife. The blade is simple but extremely effective. With steady hands, he carefully cuts through the thick skin of the animal. The other hunters assist, holding the body steady and helping separate the meat from the bones. This work requires patience and skill. Every piece of the animal is valuable. Nothing can be wasted in the ancient world. The thick skin will later be cleaned and dried to create warm clothing or blankets. The bones may become tools, needles, or spear tips. Even the smaller pieces of meat are collected and saved. Nearby, a fire is prepared once again. Several dry branches are placed together and carefully lit using glowing coals from the morning fire. Soon the flames rise again, crackling softly in the cool air. The smell of smoke slowly spreads across the cave entrance. This smell is familiar and comforting to the group. It means warmth, food, and safety. As the meat is cut into large pieces, some of it is placed onto wooden sticks and held over the fire. Slowly the meat begins to cook. A rich smell fills the air, drifting across the valley. For the children, this is one of the most exciting moments of the day. They sit close to the fire, waiting patiently for their share of the meal. One of the women also begins preparing several roots and wild plants that were gathered earlier in the forest. She washes them with water collected from the nearby stream and places them near the fire to soften slightly in the heat. Although the meals of cave people are simple, they often include many different natural foods. Meat provides strength and energy. Plants provide important nutrients that help the body stay healthy. Together, these foods create a balanced diet that supports survival in the harsh prehistoric world. While some people prepare food, others begin working on tools. One hunter sits near the cave wall with several pieces of stone spread around him. He carefully strikes one stone against another, shaping sharp edges with precise movements. Each strike sends tiny fragments of rock flying into the air. Slowly, the stone begins to take the shape of a new spear point. Tool making is an important skill passed down through many generations. The sharper and stronger the tools, the greater the chances of success during the next hunt. Nearby, another member of the group begins working with the deer hide. Using a stone scraper, she removes small pieces of fat and tissue from the inside of the skin. This process helps preserve the hide and prepare it for later use. Once cleaned and dried, the hide will become valuable clothing that protects against cold weather. The children continue observing everything with fascination. These daily activities are their classroom. Every skill they watch today will become knowledge they use later in life. As the sun slowly lowers in the sky, the valley becomes quieter. Birds begin returning to their nests in the trees. The wind grows cooler as evening approaches. Soon the meat cooking over the fire is ready to eat. The hunters remove the pieces from the flames and place them onto flat stones. The group gathers close together. There are no plates or tables in this ancient world. Food is shared directly by hand. Each person receives a portion of the cooked meat along with berries and roots gathered earlier in the day. The children eat eagerly, their faces glowing in the warm firelight. The adults eat more slowly, enjoying the moment of rest after a long day of work. For a short time, survival tasks pause. This is a rare moment of calm and connection. After the meal, several members of the group sit near the cave wall where ancient drawings can be seen. These simple paintings were created long ago by earlier members of the group. Using natural pigments made from crushed rocks and plants, early humans painted animals, hunting scenes, and mysterious symbols onto the stone walls. One of the older hunters picks up a small piece of charcoal from the fire. Slowly he begins drawing new lines on the cave wall. The children watch carefully as the image slowly takes shape. A deer appears first, then several hunters holding spears. The drawing tells the story of the hunt that happened earlier that day. For these ancient people, cave art is more than decoration. It is memory. It is storytelling. It is a way of passing knowledge to the next generation. As darkness begins to fall across the valley once again, the fire burns brighter inside the cave. The group gathers closer together for warmth. The children grow sleepy after the long day. Soon they lie down on the soft animal skins spread across the ground. One by one their eyes slowly close. The adults remain awake a little longer, quietly speaking and watching the glowing fire. Outside, the prehistoric world slowly returns to darkness. Stars begin appearing once again above the silent valley. Another long day in the life of the cave people is coming to an end. But their story is not finished yet. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new discoveries, and new moments in the ancient journey of humanity. Night has now fully settled over the ancient valley. The sky above the cave is deep and dark, filled with thousands of quiet stars. Far away from the lights of modern cities, the prehistoric night sky appears brighter and more mysterious than anything we see today. Inside the cave, the fire still burns gently. Its warm orange light dances across the stone walls, making the ancient drawing seem almost alive. The shadows move slowly as the flames crackle and shift. Most of the children are already asleep. They lie close together on soft animal hides spread across the cave floor. Their breathing is calm and steady after the long day of activity. For them, sleep comes quickly in the quiet darkness. The adults sit near the fire a little longer. These quiet evening moments are rare. During the day there is always work to do, but at night, when the valley grows silent, the group finally has time to rest and reflect. One of the older members of the group slowly places another piece of wood onto the fire. The flames grow slightly stronger again. Keeping the fire alive during the night is extremely important. The fire provides warmth against the cold air that slowly creeps into the cave. It also protects the group from dangerous animals that may wander through the valley in darkness. Many predators dislike fire and its strange glowing light. The smell of smoke also helps keep insects away. For early humans, fire is one of the most powerful tools they have ever discovered. It changes everything about survival. As the fire continues burning, one of the older hunters begins quietly telling a story. His voice is calm and slow, almost like a soft whisper carried by the firelight. The children who are still awake listen carefully. Even some of the adults turn their attention toward him. Stories are an important part of life for these early people. There are no books, no writing, and no recorded history. Every piece of knowledge must be remembered and shared through spoken words. Stories teach lessons about hunting, survival, animals, and the natural world. They also help explain mysterious things like storms, darkness, and the movement of the stars. The hunter begins telling a story about a great mammoth hunt that happened many seasons ago. He describes the massive animal walking across the snowy plains. He tells how the hunters worked together, slowly surrounding the giant creature. His hands move in the firelight as he explains the bravery and teamwork needed to succeed. The children listen with wide eyes. In their imagination, they can almost see the huge mammoth moving through the frozen landscape. These stories help the young ones understand the dangers and skills needed for survival. Slowly, the story comes to an end. The cave grows quiet again. One by one, the adults begin preparing to sleep as well. They spread animal skins across the ground and lie down close to the warm fire. The cave may not look comfortable by modern standards, but for these early humans it provides safety and protection from the harsh world outside. The stone walls block the cold wind, the fire keeps the air warm, and the group itself offers protection through cooperation and trust. Outside the cave, the valley is alive with nighttime sounds. Owls call softly from the trees. Small animals move through the grass searching for food. In the distance, a wolf howls somewhere across the dark hills. But inside the cave, the firelight creates a peaceful place to rest. Hours slowly pass as the night deepens. The fire eventually burns lower, leaving glowing red embers on the ground. One of the hunters wakes briefly and adds another piece of wood to keep the flames alive. Then he quietly lies back down and returns to sleep. Above the valley, the stars slowly move across the sky as the earth continues its silent rotation. Eventually, the darkest hours of the night begin to fade. Far away on the eastern horizon, the first faint signs of morning begin to appear. The sky slowly changes from black to deep blue. The stars begin disappearing one by one. Soon the first birds begin singing in the trees near the cave. Their soft songs announce the arrival of another new day. Inside the cave, one of the children stirs slightly and opens his eyes. He looks toward the cave entrance where the faint early light is beginning to glow. Another day is beginning in the life of the cave people. Soon the group will wake again. The hunters will prepare their spears. The gatherers will collect baskets for berries and roots. The children will continue learning the skills needed to survive in this ancient world. Life will repeat its familiar rhythm of work, cooperation, and discovery. And although these early humans lived thousands of years ago, their daily struggles and small victories helped shape the future of humanity. Every fire they protected, every tool they crafted, and every story they shared became part of the long journey that eventually led to the world we live in today. So the next time you wake up in a warm home, with electricity, running water and modern comforts, it is worth remembering how far humanity has travelled. From simple caves and stone tools to the complex societies of the modern age. The journey began with people just like these early cave dwellers, people who woke up each morning ready to face the challenges of the world with courage, curiosity and cooperation. And as the first golden rays of sunlight finally enter the cave once again, the cycle of another prehistoric day quietly begins. The first light of the new morning slowly spreads across the valley. Soft golden sunlight touches the tops of the distant hills and gently moves down toward the forest below. Inside the cave, the air is still cool from the long night. The fire has burned down into glowing red embers, giving off only a small amount of warmth. One of the older members of the group wakes first. This is common in the ancient world. Survival often depends on waking early and using every moment of daylight wisely. He quietly sits up and looks toward the cave entrance. Outside, the sky is turning brighter with each passing minute. Birds are already moving through the trees searching for insects and seeds. The valley is slowly waking up. The man moves carefully so he does not disturb the others who are still sleeping. He kneels beside the fire and gently adds a few small sticks. Soon the flames begin to grow again. The soft crackling sound fills the cave once more. The warmth slowly spreads across the stone floor. This small act of rebuilding the fire is one of the first tasks of every morning. Without fire, life in the prehistoric world would be much harder and far more dangerous. As the flames grow stronger, the rest of the group begins waking up. One of the children stretches and rubs his eyes. Another sits up and looks toward the glowing fire with sleepy curiosity. Soon the cave is filled with quiet morning movement. People slowly stand, stretch their tired muscles and prepare for the day ahead. The hunters check their tools first. They inspect their spears carefully, making sure the stone tips are still firmly attached to the wooden shafts. A loose spear tip could mean failure during a hunt, and failure could mean hunger for the entire group. Nearby, one of the women checks a small pile of berries and roots that were saved from the previous day. These simple foods will serve as a small morning meal before the group begins their daily work. The food is shared among everyone. Each person receives only a small portion. In the prehistoric world, food must always be carefully managed. No one can afford to waste anything. After eating, the group begins preparing for another day of survival in the ancient wilderness. Today the hunters plan to explore a different part of the valley. Large animals rarely stay in one place for long. They move constantly in search of fresh grass and water. To find them, the hunters must also travel and observe the land carefully. The hunters gather near the cave entrance and speak quietly, while pointing toward the distant hills. Their discussion is simple but important. They must decide the safest and most promising direction for the hunt. Meanwhile, the gatherers prepare their woven baskets. These baskets are made from flexible branches and strong plant fibres. They're perfect for collecting berries, nuts, and edible plants from the forest. The children also begin preparing for their day. Some will stay near the cave with the older members of the group. Others may travel a short distance with the gatherers to learn about plants and natural resources. Learning begins early in the prehistoric world. Every skill is necessary for survival. Soon the hunters step outside the cave and begin walking into the morning light. The valley looks beautiful in the early sunlight. Morning mist rises slowly from the grass near the stream. Dew sparkles on leaves like tiny drops of glass. But despite the beauty of the landscape, the hunters remain focused and alert. The ancient world is full of dangers. Large predators such as wolves, bears, and saber-toothed cats may also be searching for food. The hunters move quietly through the grass, watching the ground carefully for tracks. Animal footprints are one of the most important clues in prehistoric hunting. A skilled hunter can tell many things just by looking at tracks in the soil. They can tell which direction the animal travelled. They can tell how large the animal is. Sometimes they can even guess how long ago the animal passed through the area. Soon one of the hunters kneels beside a patch of soft ground. He points silently towards several large footprints pressed into the mud. The group gathers around him. These are the tracks of a large deer. The footprints are fresh, which means the animal cannot be far away. The hunters exchange quiet glances. This could be a very good sign. Slowly they begin following the tracks deeper into the forest. Each step is careful and controlled. Twigs and dry leaves on the ground could easily make noise if stepped on too quickly. Silence is their greatest advantage. Back at the cave, the gatherers and children begin their own journey into the nearby forest. They search for familiar plants that have provided food for generations. Some bushes contain sweet berries. Other plants hide edible roots beneath the soil. The gatherers know exactly where to look. This knowledge has been passed down through countless seasons. One of the older women shows a young child how to recognize a certain plant with wide green leaves. She carefully digs into the soil and pulls out a thick root. This root will be cleaned and cooked later near the fire. The child watches closely, learning every step of the process. These quiet lessons are how knowledge survives through time. Hours pass as the group continues working across the valley. The hunters track their prey deeper into the forest. The gatherers slowly fill their baskets with plants and berries. The children explore the natural world with endless curiosity. The sun climbs higher in the sky, bringing warmth and light to the ancient landscape. Another day in the life of the cave people continues to unfold, filled with challenges, discovery, and the constant effort to survive in a wild and unpredictable world. The sun now hangs high above the prehistoric valley, spreading bright light across the endless grasslands and forests. The cool morning air has slowly turned warm as midday approaches. For the small group of cave people, the day has already been full of movement and effort. The hunters who left the cave earlier are now deep inside the forest, carefully following the fresh tracks they discovered in the soft ground. The footprints left by the deer are still clear. Each step pressed into the soil tells a story. The hunters move slowly and quietly, their eyes scanning every detail of the land around them. They have learned through many seasons that patience is the most important skill a hunter can have. Rushing too quickly can scare away the animals long before a spear can be thrown. One of the hunters kneels beside the tracks again. He gently touches the ground where the deer stepped earlier. The soil is still slightly damp from the morning dew. This tells him the deer passed not long ago. The animal must still be somewhere nearby. The hunters exchange quiet looks with one another. They continue moving deeper into the forest. Tall trees surround them now, their branches forming a thick roof above. Sunlight filters through the leaves, creating patches of light and shadow across the forest floor. The forest is alive with quiet sounds. Birds chirp above the branches. Insects buzz softly near the bushes. Somewhere in the distance, the faint sound of running water can be heard. But the hunters remain focused only on the trail. Suddenly one of them raises his hand. The group freezes instantly. Through a gap between the trees, something moves in the tall grass ahead. Slowly the shape becomes clearer. A small group of deer is grazing near the edge of the forest. The animals appear calm, gently pulling grass from the ground as they eat. The hunters lower their bodies closer to the earth. This moment requires extreme care. Even the smallest sound could alert the deer. One hunter slowly reaches for his spear. Another carefully moves to the side, positioning himself so the animals cannot easily escape in that direction. The wind continues blowing toward the hunters, hiding their scent. Everything seems perfect. The lead hunter slowly raises his spear and prepares to throw. But just before he moves, something unexpected happens. From the opposite side of the clearing, a loud noise suddenly echoes through the forest. The deer immediately lift their heads. Within seconds, the entire group of animals runs away into the trees. The hunters watch in frustration as their opportunity disappears. The sound that frightened the deer was not made by them. From the trees across the clearing, another group of humans suddenly appears. These strangers are hunters from another tribe. They must have been following the same deer. For a moment, both groups stand still, watching each other carefully. Encounters like this can be unpredictable. Sometimes different groups of early humans cooperate peacefully. Other times they simply go their separate ways. The strangers look just as surprised as the hunters from the cave. After a moment of silent observation, one of the strangers raises his hand slowly in a gesture of peace. The hunters from the cave respond with a similar movement. Neither group wishes to fight. In the ancient world, injuries can be deadly without proper medicine. After a few moments, both groups slowly turn and walk in different directions. The deer have escaped, but conflict has been avoided. The hunters from the cave begin their long walk back through the forest. Although the hunt did not succeed today, this is part of life in the prehistoric world. Not every attempt brings food. Survival depends on persistence and cooperation. Meanwhile, back near the cave, the gatherers and children continue their work along the edge of the forest. Their baskets are now half full with berries, nuts, and edible roots. One of the children suddenly points toward a tree branch above them. A group of small birds sits quietly there. The children watch them with fascination. The natural world provides endless moments of curiosity and learning. The gatherers soon decide it is time to return to the cave. The sun is already moving slowly toward the western sky. They must arrive before darkness begins to fall. When the hunters finally return to the cave, they share the story of the strange encounter with the other tribe. The group listens carefully. Such encounters are important to remember. Other groups may live nearby, and understanding their presence helps avoid future danger. Even though the hunters returned without meat today, the gathered food will still provide enough to eat. The berries and roots are placed near the fire to prepare the evening meal. As the sun begins to set once again over the valley, the cave fills with the warm glow of firelight. Another long day in the life of the cave, people slowly comes to an end. Tomorrow will bring new opportunities, new hunts, and new discoveries in the ancient world they call home. The evening sun slowly begins to sink behind the distant hills. Golden light spreads across the prehistoric valley one more time before darkness arrives. Long shadows stretch across the tall grass and rocky ground. The air becomes cooler as the day slowly comes to an end. Near the cave entrance, the small group of early humans gathers together again after their long day of work. The hunters have returned from the forest after their encounter with the other tribe. Although they did not bring back a deer, the group is still calm. Days without a successful hunt are common in the prehistoric world. This is why gathering plants, berries and roots is so important. The baskets brought back by the gatherers are now placed near the fire. Inside them are handfuls of dark berries, several edible roots, and a few nuts found beneath the forest trees. These simple foods will be enough to feed everyone tonight. One of the women begins preparing the evening meal. She kneels near the fire and carefully spreads the berries onto a flat stone. Some are eaten fresh, while others are lightly warmed near the flames. Another person cleans the roots and places them into the hot ashes near the fire. Slow cooking will make them softer and easier to eat. The fire crackles softly as small sparks rise into the air. The familiar smell of smoke drifts slowly across the cave entrance. The children sit close to the fire, watching everything with curiosity. Even though the food tonight is simple, the warm fire and shared meal bring comfort. One of the hunters sits nearby, sharpening his stone knife. He carefully slides the blade across another stone, restoring its sharp edge. Tool maintenance is important, especially after a long day in the forest. A dull blade can make work much harder the next time it is needed. Nearby, another member of the group examines a spear that was slightly damaged during the day's travel. Using a small piece of sinew from an earlier hunt, he tightly wraps the spearhead back into place. These quiet moments of repairing tools are a normal part of daily life. Everything must be kept ready for the next hunt. Meanwhile, the children begin playing in the open space near the cave. They run through the grass, pretending to track animals just like the hunters do. One child crouches low and points at the ground dramatically. The others laugh and follow him, pretending they have found a trail of a giant mammoth. Their imagination fills the valley with invisible adventures, For the adults watching them, these playful moments are more than simple games. They are the first steps in learning important survival skills. Tracking animals, moving quietly, and observing the land all begin as childhood play. As the sun slowly disappears behind the hills, the sky turns deep shades of orange and purple. The valley grows quieter as many animals begin preparing for the night. Birds return to their nests in the tall trees. Small creatures hide beneath rocks or inside burrows in the ground. The night world will soon begin to awaken. The roots cooking in the ashes are finally ready. One of the women carefully pulls them from the fire using a long stick. The outer skin is dark from the heat, but inside the roots are soft and warm. The group gathers together for the evening meal. Each person receives a small portion of food. They eat slowly and quietly, enjoying the warmth of the fire and the calm of the evening. Even though the meal is modest, it provides enough energy to continue another day of survival. After eating, the cave becomes a place of relaxation and quiet conversation. One of the older members of the group begins telling a story about a long journey that happened many seasons ago. He describes travelling across wide plains and frozen rivers. He tells about strange animals they saw and dangerous storms they survived. The children listen closely, their eyes reflecting the glow of the fire. Stories like these help keep memories alive across generations. They also teach important lessons about courage, patience, and wisdom. Outside the cave, darkness slowly spreads across the valley. The stars begin appearing once again in the clear night sky. Without clouds or city lights, the stars shine brightly like countless tiny fires above the world. One of the children walks to the cave entrance and looks upward in amazement. The night sky has always been a mystery for humans. Even these early people wonder about the glowing lights above them. Some may believe the stars are spirits watching the earth. Others may simply admire their beauty. Inside the cave, the fire burns steadily as the group slowly prepares for sleep. Animal hides are spread across the ground once again. The hunters place their spears within reach beside them. Even during sleep, they must be ready for danger. Predators sometimes move through the valley at night, but the fire usually keeps them at a safe distance. One hunter remains awake near the entrance to keep watch during the first part of the night. This responsibility will later pass to another member of the group. Taking turns watching helps protect everyone while they sleep. The children curl up beneath the warm hides and quickly drift into dreams. The adults soon follow, their bodies tired after another long day in the ancient wilderness. Outside, the sounds of the night slowly grow stronger. Owls call from the trees. Insects sing in the grass. Somewhere far away, wolves move quietly beneath the moonlight. But inside the cave, the fire continues glowing softly. Another peaceful night in the life of the cave people has begun, surrounded by the endless wilderness of the prehistoric world. The night slowly moves across the prehistoric valley, calm and quiet beneath a sky full of bright stars. Inside the cave, the warm glow of the fire flickers softly against the stone walls. Most of the group is asleep now. The long day of gathering food, repairing tools, and preparing the evening meal has left everyone tired. The children sleep closely together beneath thick animal hides. Their small movements and soft breathing fill the cave with a peaceful rhythm. Near the entrance, one hunter remains awake, quietly keeping watch over the group. This responsibility is important. The ancient wilderness outside the cave is never completely safe. Predators often move through the valley at night, searching for food in the darkness. The hunter sits beside the fire with his spear resting across his knees. His eyes move slowly across the dark valley outside the cave. The moon has risen high above the hills, casting a pale silver light across the grasslands. In the distance, the tall grass moves gently in the cool night wind. Occasionally the faint sound of animals can be heard. Somewhere far away, a wolf howls beneath the moonlit sky. The sound echoes across the valley before fading into silence. The hunter listens carefully, but he remains calm. The fire burning near the cave entrance usually keeps wolves and other predators away. Still, he remains alert. Moments later, A quiet rustling sound comes from the bushes not far from the cave. The hunter immediately grips his spear and leans forward slightly. His eyes focus on the dark shape moving through the grass. The rustling grows louder for a moment. Then a small animal quickly runs out from the bushes. It is only a rabbit searching for food beneath the moonlight. The hunter relaxes again as the rabbit disappears into the tall grass. The night continues quietly. After some time, another hunter wakes up and quietly walks toward the fire. It is now his turn to watch the valley while the first hunter rests. The two men exchange a brief nod. No words are needed. The first hunter lies down near the fire and quickly falls asleep. The second hunter now sits near the cave entrance, continuing the watch. Hours pass slowly beneath the silent stars. The valley remains calm, filled only with the natural sounds of the night. Eventually the darkest part of the night arrives. The moon begins to move lower toward the horizon. The air grows slightly colder as the hours pass. Inside the cave, the fire burns lower but still gives off enough warmth to keep the group comfortable. One of the children briefly wakes and looks toward the entrance. The glowing firelight and the quiet presence of the watchful hunter help him feel safe. Soon he closes his eyes and falls back asleep. Far outside the cave, something large moves through the forest. Branches crack quietly beneath heavy footsteps. A large bear walks slowly along the edge of the valley, searching for food in the darkness. Its powerful nose lifts into the air as it smells the faint scent of smoke drifting from the cave. The bear pauses for a moment. It studies the distant glow of the fire near the cave entrance. After a short time, the animal turns and continues walking deeper into the forest. Even powerful predators usually avoid the strange light and smell of human fire. Back inside the cave, the night continues peacefully. Eventually the stars begin to shift across the sky, as the earth slowly turns toward morning. The hunter, keeping watch, notices the first faint changes in the eastern sky. The darkness begins to soften slightly. Soon the earliest birds begin singing in the trees. Their quiet calls break the long silence of the night. Morning is slowly approaching once again. The hunter gently adds another piece of wood to the fire. The flames grow stronger for a moment, sending sparks into the cool morning air. Inside the cave, one of the older members of the group begins to stir. He stretches slowly and sits up beside the fire. Another new day is about to begin. Soon the entire group will wake and prepare once again for the tasks of survival. The hunters will search the valley for animals. The gatherers will explore the forest for berries and roots. The children will continue learning the skills needed to survive in this ancient world. Every sunrise brings another chance to find food, discover new places, and strengthen the group. As the first golden rays of sunlight finally rise over the distant hills, the valley slowly fills with light again. The prehistoric world awakens for another day of life, effort, and quiet adventure. The first golden light of morning slowly spreads across the prehistoric valley once again. Soft sunlight touches the tops of the distant hills before slowly moving down across the forest and open grasslands. The cool air of the early morning carries the fresh scent of wet grass and earth. Another day is beginning for the small group of cave people who have made their home in the rocky shelter beside the valley. Inside the cave, the fire from the night before still glows faintly beneath a layer of grey ash. A few thin trails of smoke rise slowly into the air. One of the older hunters wakes first, just as he has done many times before. He sits up quietly and listens to the sounds outside the cave. Birds are already beginning their morning songs in the nearby trees. Small animals move softly through the grass as they search for food before the sun becomes too warm. The hunter gently places a few dry sticks onto the glowing embers of the fire. Soon small flames begin to rise again. The crackling sound spreads through the cave and slowly wakes the others. One by one, the members of the group begin to stretch and sit up after their long night of rest. The children rub their eyes and look toward the growing firelight. Morning has arrived again in the ancient world. Outside the cave, the valley looks calm and beautiful beneath the rising sun. Mist drifts slowly above the nearby stream. Drops of dew sparkle on the grass like tiny pieces of crystal. But the people of the cave know that beauty alone does not guarantee survival. Every day brings new challenges. Food must be found again, water must be gathered, tools must be repaired. The hunters gather near the entrance of the cave and look out across the valley. Yesterday's hunt did not bring much success. Today, they will try again. One hunter points toward the distant hills where herds of animals sometimes travel. Another suggests exploring closer to the river where animals often come to drink water. After a few moments of discussion, they choose their direction for the day. Meanwhile, the gatherers prepare their baskets once again. The forest nearby still holds many plants, berries, and roots that can provide food. The children eagerly prepare to follow along, ready to learn more about the world around them. Before leaving, the group shares a small morning meal made from the last of the berries and dried meat from earlier hunts. It is not much, but it is enough to give them strength for the work ahead. Soon the hunters step out into the valley and begin their journey across the open grasslands. The gatherers and children move toward the forest paths they know so well. The cave slowly becomes quiet as the group spreads across the land once again. Hours pass as the prehistoric world comes fully alive beneath the rising sun. The hunters track animals across the valley. The gatherers search for plants along the forest floor. The children observe everything with endless curiosity. For these early humans, every day is both a challenge and a lesson. They learn from the land, they learn from the animals, they learn from each other. This constant learning is what allows humanity to slowly grow stronger and wiser over many generations. Thousands of years will pass before humans build cities, create writing, and develop the complex world we know today. But all of those future discoveries begin with people like these cave dwellers, people who wake each morning ready to face the wild world with courage and determination. As the sun begins to move across the sky once again, the valley continues its endless cycle of life. Animals roam across the grasslands, birds fly above the forest, and the small group of humans continues their quiet struggle to survive in the ancient wilderness. Their lives may appear simple, but they are filled with strength, cooperation, and deep connection to the natural world. And as the day slowly moves forward, their story becomes another small part of the long journey of humanity. A journey that began in caves like this one, beside fires like the one glowing softly in the shadows behind them. A journey that continues even now, thousands of years later, with every new sunrise across the earth,